Welcome to Meadowbrook Members Podcast. I am Jelly, otherwise known as Glacier Prince, and my co-host is Hitchcock, otherwise known as Alfred Henry. Our mission on this podcast series is to explore the stories behind the magic that was created at Meadowbrook. When over a span of 4 years, between 1982 and 1986, we saw the transformation of a small coeducational school with less than 1,200 students, 800 boys, 800 girls and 400 boys into a successful sports and scholastic champion, winning 7 major trophies, 3 Sunlight Cup, 2 Topping Cup, 1 Walker Cup, and 1 Nutriment Shield. And to crown these achievements, Meadowbrook also produced 2 Rhodes Scholars, Cavell Creighton in 1987 and Andrea Wright in 1989, both graduates of Meadowbrook in 1983. In this podcast series, we'll be speaking to persons, both males and female, who were actively involved in this incredible journey, along with friends and staff at Meadowbrook, which inspired the environment which created this golden era. We hope you enjoy our discussion. Please give us as much support and encouragement as you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. Welcome and thanks for joining us. One go. Today is Sunday, March 5th, 2023, and welcome back to another conversation about Meadowbrook memories. Me, as usual, Jelly, or Glacier, or Lance, or Prince, and any one of those names will do. Join me as my co-host for the second time today is Patrick Dewey, who was a co-host on episode number 17 with former teachers Mrs. Nelson and Mrs. Bramley, now formerly Mrs. Barber, before she got married. You should go and listen to that episode and subscribe while listening. Patrick is the younger brother of my good friend from Pembroke Primary and Meadowbrook High, Robert Dewey, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And any opportunity I get to mention my friend's name, I never miss a chance, because Robert was an historian on all things Meadowbrook. And if he was still around, he would definitely be an integral part of this conversation. Joining us for the first time as co-host is Paulette Samuels, who was on episode number 44. And you should go back and listen to Paulette's Meadowbrook memories. And definitely subscribe while listening. Also joining us for this conversation is Donovan Thomas, or Dante, or Tegreg. And he needs no introduction to these conversations, because he has been on since episode number 5. He has been a co-host, and he has been a co-host on a number of these conversations. Our guests today, and yes, we have 3 guests, very special guests today, and we'll have to give them proper introduction, because America is known to produce the Wright brothers, who made the world know that humans can fly in a machine, and Meadowbrook had the Wright sisters, who made Meadowbrook children know that the sky was the limit. First of these sisters started Meadowbrook in 1974, the same year I started, and her standard for academic excellence was something I admire from I was in first form. She was a member of the ISCF, Inter-Schools Christian Federation, and wanted to pursue a career in guidance counseling in the footsteps of Mrs. Millwood, a well-known and beloved teacher at Meadowbrook. But she decided to pursue a more challenging and more noble career in the fields of hearing impaired, where she is now a highly trained specialist. The second of the Wright sisters went to Meadowbrook from 1976 to 1983, and she enjoyed netball, badminton, drama, and performed in a drama school competition in the play Good Morning Miss Millie in 1980-81. She sang in the school choir and became a part of the national choir for a season. She was an active member of the ISCF and was co-president of that group in her final year. She was head girl in 1982-83 school year, and best remembered at Meadowbrook when she became Rhodes Scholar number 2 in 1989, so quickly after her first Rhodes Scholar, Cavell Creighton. The baby of the tree, and yes, as we Jamaicans, as the sister reminded me, we pronounce it tree, because Jamaicans seem to eat the H when we pronounce the number 3. And thanks for that. Thanks for reminding me about that. But I digress. Started Meadowbrook in 1980 as a 10-year-old, very young for high school. She enjoyed being on the netball team, drama club, yearbook club, when she was editor-in-chief, and she was also on the debate team. She also said she was a party girl, where she found time to host several class parties, DJ, with DJ by then popular CB Massive, and run boats with her cohorts. And that I did not know. She'll have to expand on that. I didn't know a girl know anything about running boats, but she'll have to expand on that. She was head girl and was encouraged to take up the head girl position by her dear friend, Saffron Ramsey, who, full disclosure, was my sister-in-law and also a dear friend of mine. Not because she was my sister-in-law, but a very special human being who passed away way too soon, about 22 years ago. And we still all miss her bubbly spirit. She's also married to her high school sweetheart, Sean Hibbert, who is also went to Meadowbrook, but who unfortunately is not on this conversation today because of work commitments. So without further ado, Meadowbrook welcome the Wright sisters. So Karen, you introduce yourself first, and then Andrea, and then you Beverly. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Wright Martin. The people here in Knoxville, Tennessee know me as Dr. Karen Martin because I completed my PhD in speech and hearing science a few years ago. I have been living in Tennessee in Knoxville since 2001. In fact, I can still remember that horrible incident in New York when the towers came down. We had just moved to Knoxville just before that happened. And we've been living here ever since. I live here with my husband, Dr. James Martin, who is an audiologist. We have two, I like to say children, but the truth is they're young adults now. Caleb and Joanna, they just recently graduated from college, the same college where I'm teaching at, with their degrees in engineering and architecture. And that's me.
And Karen, you introduce yourself. Sorry, Andrea.
Andrea.
I'm going to get the name mixed up. Sorry. Go ahead, Andrea.
Sorry. All right.
That's all right. Hi, everybody. Greetings from very cold London in the UK. We're supposed to be heading into spring, but apparently we're going to be having snow this week. I am Andrea Taylor Cummings. My surname was Wright. You heard lots of the story already. I've been here. The line goes, I came to the UK to get my master's and I got my mister as well. I met my husband at Oxford when I came on the scholarship, did my master's and doctorate, worked in Tokyo for a year, came back. We've run businesses together. We've worked in professional services, John in banking, me in management consulting. We have two lovely children. As Karen said, can't call them children. One's about to be 21. That's Liana, finishing university in the next few months. And Isaac, who is 17, going on 18 and just finishing A-levels and wants to save the world with global sustainable development. We'll unpack more of our story as we go through. John and I now run a business together focused on helping corporates, communities, and couples change their behaviors from habits that damage relationships to habits that strengthen them. That's our passion for the last almost 3 decades, and that's what we do as our full-time business now as leadership development consultants.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. And Beverly, you introduce
Hi,
yourself.
everyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I am Beverley Wright Hibbert. I started Meadowbrook in 1980. Yes, I was 10 because my birthday is in November, so I was one of the youngest ones there. And I consider those times as some of the greatest years of my life because I think we had the greatest group of kids at that time, some of whom are still very good friends. I migrated to the United States in 1990 because, unlike my sisters, I did not go directly to university or college right after high school. I chose to work for a few years and, try to figure out what I really wanted to do. And when I got to the point when I started having to train people to be my boss, because they had a degree and I didn't, I realized that it was time. So I went off to Florida, did my undergraduate degrees there in business, and finished my bachelor's at St. John's University in New York. And of course, married my very best friend, Sean Hibbert, who used to walk me home from school every day. We were very good friends, and we'll be celebrating 30 years of marriage this year. We have 3 children. My oldest is 25. He's already graduated from the University of Miami with a degree in economics and business. My second child, Matthew, is going to be graduating from University of Florida with chemical engineering this year. And we have a 15-year-old daughter who is a sophomore in high school. And boy, do I wish she had a high school like Meadowbrook, because times have changed. So that's me, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more. And yes, we had the parties, and yes, me know how to run boats.
All right. We get to know that. No worry. We get to... I'm Paulette. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Paulette Samuels Brown. I am just the host today, so I'm not going to say much about myself. I currently live in Canada, and I work as an elementary school principal.
Yeah, and Dante, introduce yourself back, my brother.
Evening, everybody. Very, very pleased to be a part of this conversation. Nice to meet you, Karen. I knew both Andrea and Beverly. I don't know if Andrea will remember me. She was a little ahead of me, but she may have remembered a few of the trouble I used to give.
I remember the name.
Right. Beverly, we were in same first class, and she's married to perhaps my best friend from primary school, Sean.
Yes.
Right. Great stuff. Very nice to be here. Paulette, nice to meet you as well, and really happy to be a part of this conversation. Patrick, glad to link up again, me and Patrick have some history as well. We actually worked at the same place at one point. Yeah.
Right.
And right. So looking forward, I'm all things Meadowbrook, especially after I left, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dante. And Patrick, reintroduce yourself back quickly for me.
Yes, sir. So quickly, I'm Patrick Dewey. As Jelly mentioned, I'm the younger brother of Robert Dewey, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. So in some circles, I was known as Little Do because Robert's nickname was Do, a shortening of the surname. So I was in the same year, same class as Andrea, and I had some really fantastic times at the Meadowbrook High School. I eventually became a track athlete. That was the sport of choice back then. So some people may remember that I used to run at Sports Day. I was a guard show, right? That's the Blue House. If you guys remember the sports,
Yes.
right?
I was roughly.
Right. Yeah.
I was Ward.
There you go. All over the world, all across the spectrum. So yes, won't say too much, but I'm very happy to be a part of this, especially with this company. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Thank you. I'm by now, Karen, and I'm going to start with you because you're the oldest one here.
Okay.
The opening question I have for all the guests who come on this program, from mine that came over 12 months ago, the first question I asked was, did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
Meadowbrook chose me. That's hands down. Meadowbrook chose me. So my story is that we, as younger girls, our dad was Catholic, so we grew up Catholic. I even went through as far as First Communion. And so when I took my common entrance examinations, I very Catholically, if you can say that word, chose Holy Childhood or Immaculate. And when the common entrance results came out, my name wasn't under any of those. So I thought that I had not succeeded in passing the common entrance exam. And not too later on that day, an aunt called me and was congratulating me, saying that I had passed. And we were all very surprised. And we said, how you know where you sit at? And she said that my name was listed on the Meadowbrook High School. And we were like, Meadowbrook? I didn't know what that school was, but all of a sudden at that point, it dawned on me what that uniform was associated with. That uniform I would see from time to time was actually at Meadowbrook. And my dad was curious and interested in still trying to get me transferred to either Holy Childhood or Immaculate. But we went to I guess it was an orientation, something where the headmaster at that time, Mr. Thorpe, spoke. And after hearing that, he decided and we decided, okay, we're going to stay at Meadowbrook, which I was happy about because in hindsight, it was certainly nicer to go to a co-ed school rather than an all-girls school. So that started my journey at Meadowbrook. And as you know, my younger sisters followed me there. So the rest is history. But yeah, that's how I got to Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook chose me, and I was very pleased for that.
And for the record, Karen, what primary school you took the common entrance?
St. Elizabeth Preparatory School.
Prep, where's that school? I've never heard about that school.
Oh dear, I don't remember the address.
Near Lyndhurst Road.
Crescent. Near Lyndhurst Road, near Lyndhurst Crescent. Yes.
Okay.
That actually closed down because that's where I used to go as well. And when it closed down, it was another Catholic institution, and I ended up having to go to a different prep school. But I'll talk about that in my turn.
Yeah. So you guys live in what year at the time? Near Lyndhurst Road or off Reynolds Road?
No, we were off Red Hills Road for that whole time.
But you went to school off Lyndhurst Road. Okay, that was quite.
Yes, and that was because it was kind of near to work. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Andrea and Bev, but it was kind of near to work where our dad used to work because he worked for JOS, the
Oh yes, and JOS was right on Lyndhurst
the bus
Road.
company, the bus company. Yes,
Lyndhurst Road right beside RGR. Yes, I remember that. I said that, Karen. So yeah. So you, Andrea, did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
Well, it's kind of both because Karen was there, and my dad, when he heard Mr. Thorpe speak, I still remember him saying, if that's the guy leading the school, that's the school he wants his girls to go to. So when my turn came for me, I chose Meadowbrook without even thinking about the other schools. That was my number one choice, and happily so. Wonderful memories.
So by the time you chose Meadowbrook, have you had a chance to visit the campus before you made a choice? Or just going off what your father and your sister said?
Well, Karen is 2 years ahead of me, so I had started being exposed to the school through the things that she was involved in and the parents' evening and activities, whether it's the drama or I know Karen was part of Girl Guides. Karen, you'll be able to fill in all that detail. But, as the younger sister, you kind of hang out, be part of the dropping off and the picking up, and that's how I got exposed to the school. So for me, the decision was already taken before I even sat common entrance. That's where I was going to go.
Yeah, it was easy for me as well. My older sister went to Meadowbrook, and my brother went to Meadowbrook. So going to Meadowbrook was like a no-brainer for me. I didn't want to go nowhere but Meadowbrook. So I understand that. So I chose Meadowbrook.
That was it. Yeah, that was the same with me as well.
Yeah.
Beverly, sorry. You go ahead, Beverly.
Yeah,
did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you? Same question to you.
Well, I certainly chose it, and I'll finish what I had started before. As a student of St. Elizabeth Prep, they closed right before I started 3rd or 4th grade. So I was transferred from that school to Meadowbrook Prep. And as you know, Meadowbrook Prep shares a lot of the same facilities that the high school does. And we used to do some joint things. And I used to roam the high school campus. When Karen and Andrea were there, I clearly remember Mr. Thorpe walking around with his dog. He had this big, beautiful dog he used to walk the whole campus with. And of course, when Andrea started, it was our dear Miss McLennan. So it was again a no-brainer for me. My sisters were already paving a pathway, and because I had familiarity with the campus and activities that we used to do jointly, I chose Meadowbrook for sure.
Yeah. So Karen, back to you. When the first day came on Meadowbrook campus, you say you weren't familiar with it. You're saying, what is this? The first day you started, what's the impression you got when you came to Meadowbrook campus?
To be honest, I don't have a lot of memories of that, but I remember feeling fairly comfortable there. Like I said, I think it was, in the hindsight, nicer to have a mixture rather than just all girls, because, the guys always added an extra element of fun and enjoyment to the class situation. So I really didn't have any trouble with that at all starting out. We would walk to school, so it was a lot easier to get there than it would have been to either of the schools I had picked for Holy Childhood or Immaculate. And I really think that was a huge thing for my dad to decide to let us go there, knowing how much he wanted us to have that Catholic upbringing. And that's what I think it definitely going to Meadowbrook changed the trajectory of my life as far as that was concerned.
What are some of the friends you met and some of the teachers you met when you started Meadowbrook?
I can shout out some of them. Like within my class, I had there was Douglas Crook, there was Lisa Lou or Lisa Lee. I think it was Lisa Lee.
Lisa Gay Lou, yeah.
Lisa Gay Lou, yes. There was Robert Carr, Richard. I think he passed away. Richard started with a C, not Campbell. I think his name was Campbell. Maureen Parkinson, she went away to Canada when I was in about third farm. So those are some of the names. Of course, in the ISCF, there was Andrew Keene, Paulette Samuels, our brother Steve Samuels. Yeah, to name a few.
What was the teacher? What did some of the teachers that stand
The
out?
teachers, I had Miss Morris. I remember Miss McLennan. I remember Speedy. What was his name again?
Mr.
Mr. Lawrence.
Lawson.
Mr. Lawson. Yeah. David Smith.
Spanish.
Of course, Mr. Thorpe. Of course. Yeah.
So who taught you Spanish?
I think it was Miss McLennan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Miss McLennan taught me Spanish. Miss Morris taught me English. Mr. Lawson taught math. And when I was there, yeah, Mr. Thorpe was was headmaster. Lord have mercy, headmaster. And then I think Miss McLennan took over from him. Was that right, Andrea? And then Miss Morris took over from Miss McLennan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miss Morris took over from Miss McLennan. So, yeah.
So you, Andrea, when you first came to Meadowbrook as a student, or you're visiting with your sister, what does it feel like being at Meadowbrook for the first time? What impression you got being there? And what are some of the students and some of the teachers you met?
So I think by the time I got there, I felt like I was coming, and so I belonged. I'd arrived. So it felt very familiar and right. I was trying to remember there's a geography teacher, I'm trying to remember her name, because I used to sing just subconsciously when I'm doing my work. I used to hum to myself, and she would get upset until one day she just said, "Is that Andrea singing?" And then she stopped, but I couldn't remember her name.
Miss Richards?
Short, curly hair. Was it Miss Richards? I don't know, but anyway, I had Miss Jones, who was young. She was an ex-student of Meadowbrook, I believe.
Yeah.
And very beautiful, very shapely. She was one of those that I aspired to grow up to be. I remember she was 30 at the time, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's so grown up. Of course, Mr. Lawson. I'll come back to Mr. Lawson because he became my enduring inspiration to do well at university when I did my first degree, because I've heard somebody call it queen bee. I could get B's fairly easily, and so I didn't push myself to get anything more than that. And he would always encourage me and believe in me and tell me what I was capable of. And it wasn't until I got to university that I say, you know what, for Mr. Lawson, I'm going to go all out. And so I did. And that's when I got a first because of him. So it would be amazing to be in touch with him again and let him know that story.
I know. Yeah, go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
No, go on. I was going to go on to
No, what I was going to say to you, that's an important lesson you're saying there now, because a lot of people know that you're a Rhodes Scholar, because I called your name early in this conversation. You were one of the inspiration when I started this to say we had Rhodes Scholars and nobody talking about it. And people think, say, you were a bright sparks, as well as say, from morning. And I said, no, you were a B student, exactly. So I'm glad you told that story. I'm glad you're telling that story.
That for me, looking back in life, that's an important story to share for a number of reasons. But to say, because I enjoyed having fun, I enjoyed all the social side of school. As they say, any panwa knock, I was there. I was involved. I know we used to have our year group was a good year group as well. my best friend, Heather Hodgson, she's still in Jamaica. She's big up in Digicel. Mention her here. We can get her on the call as well. Pamela, gosh, I was talking to my son yesterday, and I said, this year is exactly 40 years since I left Meadowbrook. Can you imagine? I never thought I'd be old enough to do that.
Is it Pamela Miller you're trying to remember, Andrea?
Yes, Pamela Miller.
Yeah, she was in the class, yes.
Was one of them.
She was a bright spark, so I guess you guys would hang out.
But she was more diligent. She was diligent. Janice, what was Janice's surname? Robinson, and her sister Grace Janice was there as well.
Right, Janice Robinson.
Some people would do the work. I would do what I needed to do to get by and nothing more. And I did not learn the discipline of really applying myself until when I was in my second to last year. So I did the 3-year natural sciences degree in computer science at UWI. And in my second year, I still average in B, which would be kind of like a 2-1 at best, maybe a 2-2. And I say, you know what? This is going to stay with me for life. I am going to do whatever it takes to up my grade, make up the difference, and get the first. And it was because I just reflected back on all the teachers who believed in me and kept saying, Andrew, you could do more. So for example, I did maths, English language and English literature in 4th form rather than 5th form. So I did it in a year, got B's. They say I could do it again and get A's. I said no, too busy having fun. The one O level that I got an A in was biology, and I'm trying to remember the name of the biology. Was Miss Parry a biology teacher?
No, she was a PE teacher.
She was PE.
I think it's Barbara, you know.
Miss who?
Barbara. She was Barbara at the time.
Miss Barbara.
Yes.
But there was an English teacher, the one who taught zoology in A levels, and she said,
Miss Chambers.
There you go, Miss Chambers. She said to me, Andrea, if you do not get an A in biology, you're not doing zoology. And at the time, I wanted to become a doctor, and I had to do zoology. So that's the only one I got an A in. Isn't that something? Because of Miss Chambers. So I got away with what I could, and eventually learned how to be diligent with what I had.
Well, I must have been having more fun than you, Andrea, because when I took O-levels, I only got through 2 subjects. I don't remember what the grades were, but I had to repeat 5th form, and that's when I settled down and started doing some work. So I know what you're talking about. I was just focusing on I just say having fun. So
Absolutely.
I just probably had more fun than you, or just waste more time than you. So yeah.
Same here, Jelly.
Yeah.
I ended up repeating as well.
So Beverly, you describe yourself as a party girl, and you went to tell us how you did that and maintain. But talk about your early days. Who are some of the people, your impression the first day you came on Meadowbrook campus? Who are some of your friends or some of the teachers you remember?
Well, I think I definitely had the advantage. I felt like I already knew the campus so well because of, again, being a student at the prep school, and I used to always go over to see my sisters, beg them some lunch money, or over across the fence to go and see Peckle, all of those things. Mr. God rest his soul. But I really had a great group of friends. I don't really remember much about first form, but second form is when they streamed the kids based on their abilities. And I think they had just introduced that evening session. And we had a great group that from that grade moved all the way through school. So people like, of course, I have to mention my, life partner, Sean Hibbert, Wayne Clark, Dunstan Wilson, Jeffrey Gordon, Clifford Allen, Peter Champagny, who is, as you know, an attorney there now, Ronald Hugh, he used to be the one to give everybody a nickname. Jeffrey Gordon, my 2 best friends, Carlene Grant, who is now Scott, and Nadine McKenzie, who is now Nadine Lazarus. And shout out to Nadine. She's making beautiful cakes, Sweet Moments Jamaica. If you ever need a specialty cake in Jamaica, she's your go-to person. Dion Lawrence, Denzi Davis, Denise Chin Young. Those girls were the bookworm massive, we used to call them, because they were the studious ones. Michelle Aljo, of course, all the guys that used to do cricket and sports, Maurice Minot, Luke Witter, of course, Donovan, you're on the call. It's so exciting to hear you on the call. So a lot of people, and I'm happy to say still in touch with a lot of them. Otis Johnson. We had a group of maybe about 8 or 10 of us that used to move together all the time. Yeah. And we were a fun group, and we used to throw the parties, during those times. Wayne Clark was an integral part of the CB Massive, the DJing with the music and so on. So we used to host a lot of parties at my home, because my parents always wanted to know the kids, were safe at my home, and they were very open to us hosting the parties. And myself, Sean, Dunstan, Carlene, and Nadine used to be the ones cooking the food. Everybody would throw a little money, and we would just throw down. Mr. McGregor was one of our favorite teachers, Rory McGregor, our math teacher, and he used to come to our parties. We had kids from the older classes that were kind of jealous of us because we would just be we had one at least once a year all the way through high school. So great memories.
So Mr. McGregor got an invite because of his size?
He to us and to a lot of the students, if you've ever had Mr. McGregor, he was just so down to earth, so roots. He would be cussing you in one minute, but he would be encouraging you in the other. So he was one of those teachers that spoke on our level, and he was just good fun. He would come and, of course, make sure everybody was behaving themselves, but he would be on the dance floor too.
No, man, I'm just messing with him, Beverly. Rory, he and I on first name basis. Rory, I'm a good friend from school.
Good.
That's how we used to address each other. I mean, he was an integral part of those cricket teams, especially when we won the first time. So I can't mess with him. I can't talk to him that way. Just I go and talk about it. So.
Well, I will share with you the nickname Ronald Hugh gave him was Tened. I don't know if you remember that, but
so much nickname over the years.
We actually still link with Mr. McGregor every now and again. A group of us, mine and stuff, right? And sometimes we link and we have a beer together. Fairly often, actually. Yeah. We invite him to some get-togethers that we have.
Yes, he was always very open, and you could talk to him. It wasn't you're the student, I'm the teacher kind of relationship. He was just very down to earth. And I hate naming names because other names pop up, and you don't want people to think, oh, she didn't remember me. But there was a great group. Adrian Smith, I know, who was also always very eloquent.
Let me do one and you do.
Michelle Garvey, Michelle Davis, all those people. Good fun. Yeah.
Adrian is an attorney now as well.
Yes.
Speaking of attorneys, I have to mention Judith Gold, who's over here as well. She's an attorney doing amazing work. And she has a beautiful Jamaican garden here in England, which is a feat. Judith, I don't know if you remember Judith Patrick.
Yes, definitely.
And remember Francine Phillips as well. I think she.
Yes, I remember Francine.
She's a doctor. I think she works mostly in public health now.
Yeah. And of course, Pavel Creighton. I've been trying to connect her through the Rhodes Forum, or connect with her, but I don't have any details yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, when this conversation goes, she might connect with you guys and see how it was. That you realize that Jelly not biting nobody, so no worries, she will come.
But Jelly, I have to say, because you've given us permission to call you Jelly, so I am so sorry. I did not know that you were related to Saffron Ramsey, but Saffron was such an inspiration for me in school because she was just so rude, so cool. And when she, I think she was head girl either the year before me, I think. And she was one of the people that saying, yeah, man, you can do this. It's and she had a following because she was just such a wonderful person. I really, really enjoyed knowing Saffron then. So my condolences to you and your family. I had no idea you were so closely connected.
Yeah, man, no, yeah. Saffron married to Patrick married, my brother married to Saffron older sister, Alison, who Andrea would have known. Good.
I remember
knew
Alison. I think I think she
Alison.
might have been in my year, Jelly. Alison,
Yeah, man, we started the same year,
remember
74.
Saffron,
Same year, yeah.
Yeah, but I knew Saffron personally as well because Saffron was like my little mentee because we were 4 or 5 years difference, I think, in years. So Saffron was my little mentee. I still remember with her with her long braid in two. Her hair with those long. So
yeah, Saffron used to come to Meadowbrook before she came to Meadowbrook because she went to Meadowbrook Prep.
Yes,
so that's,
I remember her.
Right.
And she only lived next door.
Sorry.
Yeah.
She was just down the street. I remember that.
Just across the street.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. I remember that house had the biggest mango tree going down to bottom.
Exactly. There you go.
So how can we forget that? So yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Saffron because she was a special person. Bubbly.
Yes.
Always alive for any conversation, and she was just easy to get along with. So yeah. We still miss her. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a hard one. Hard one for sure.
Yeah. So Andrea, you were at Meadowbrook for 5 years, from 74 to 79.
Lord.
And that's me. That's Andrea was there till 84.
No, sorry. Sorry. I know I'm going to get the name mixed up.
No worries.
Karen. Sorry. Karen,
Yes,
I started
yeah.
to come back to you. You were at Meadowbrook from 74 to 79.
I
Any
was.
fun memories at Meadowbrook at the time you were there in terms of on a field trip, in the classroom, anything you want to remember that you want to talk about?
Other than being a part of ICF, which I really liked, that was an integral part of my life there. I always liked sports day.
Yes.
It was ward in the house. Whether we came first or not, we were out there in our red. I always remember those and liked that quite a bit.
Thought they tried to make families in the same house, but it sounds like you girls were in different houses.
Yes, we were all in different houses. Yeah.
Yeah, they came up with that rule after us.
I was actually in Rothney with Andrea. So we used to tease Karen about being in the red house versus the yellow house.
Yeah. We were in ward, walking down to the bottom field and calling. The scores was just awesome. Yeah.
Doing the cheers as we go. It was fun.
Right.
Oh yeah,
It was.
So you okay, make sure I get Andrea, sorry. Any fun memories you remember at Meadowbrook while you were there from 1976 to 1980? Any fun memories that stands out to you that you want to talk about?
Oh, lots of fun memories. I remember Karen mentioned sports day. We used to enjoy sports day, and I used to like to get Sky Juice and what else you could get. There's something else that is it Pekka?
Yeah.
We used to have.
Pekka.
And used to do is it Kalaloo? In the
Kalaloo and Bon and Kalaloo.
Yes, Bon and Kalaloo.
So that was a fun time. I remember my cookery class. This must have been in first or second form, and I remember making rock bun. Can't remember the name of the cookery teacher, but I enjoyed doing that. The things that stick out. I remember Miss McLennan teaching us Spanish. I still remember the song Una tarde fresquita de mayo. Don't ask me why I remember that. But love those moments. What trips? I'm trying to remember trips. Why did we end up like walking up? Oops. My computer just went to sleep. What would we have walked up Red Hills for? Literally walking up the hill past Bottom Field and up. Somehow I remember doing that.
I remember, Andrea, there was a cross-country route, right? So folks who used to run, I don't remember knowing
right?
We used to run across the hillside to do a kind of a cross-country route. So
that one was
that
not me.
I would say
Wait,
probably mischief, Andrea, probably mischief.
No, I have to say we did that too, and I think it was a walkathon. It was like a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser,
yeah.
Always
You had to
in
go up
walkathon.
Queen Hill, and you had to
Yes.
carry your bag juice and thing with you, and
Yes.
go up the hill and all the way down. Yeah,
Yes.
I
kind of
remember that.
fundraiser.
I remember that. I did a couple of those, and in fact, at one point, because you had to, get people to sponsor you, you had to walk around with your paper and get people to sponsor you.
Yeah.
And I remember one of those times was a bike-a-thon. We did a 10-mile bike-a-thon. I want to say, was it up to Blue Castle?
Newcastle.
Newcastle, 10 miles, because I had to borrow my cousin's bicycle to do it.
So you're riding up the hill. You're riding up the hill, Karen? Really?
Yes. There were times when I got off and pushed, but yes, we did that. So we did the walkathon, like Bev said, and the bike-a-thon. It was a hard ride. I only did it one time.
Are you talking about that? Are you aware that one of the Delapenas, along with a couple of friends, I think Christopher Smith, rode from Meadowbrook to Port Antonio in the 1970s?
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
When you hear that conversation, I say, really?
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. When you said about that, I think it's Stephen Delapena. I think it's Stephen. Yeah. Because Stephen bigger one, right? He and Christopher Smith and another guy rode from Meadowbrook. They went to look for Mr. Chin. I don't know if you remember Mr. Chin, Andrea.
I remember the name, but Karen, I don't have a visual.
Yeah, Karen, you supposed to know Mr. Chin. Mr. Chin was there when we started Meadowbrook, I think.
The name is familiar.
The name is familiar. He went on to go teach at Titchfield, but they rode from Meadowbrook to Titchfield to go meet Mr. Chin. I said, wow, that is some...
Wow, that is a serious ride.
No, you're talking about you riding up the hill. I didn't know that was right. I wasn't fit enough for that at all, but yeah. So you, Beverly, any fun memories? As I say, you are the party one. Tell us all of the fun memories. And tell us about this running a boat. I never know it's a girl run boat. Tell me how you get introduced to that.
Yeah, of course. Well, because in our group of friends, most of them were guys. It was like 3 or 4 girls, and the rest were guys. We just hang out together. We'd walk home from school together. And a lot of times my house had a lot of fruit trees there. We would pick all the fruits from the trees, and then we would rub up some dumpling or something, and everybody eat after school. So yeah, those were definitely fun memories. On campus, in terms of, like my sisters mentioned, sports day, but for me, the fetes were the thing.
Wow.
That's what I would have said for Bev. Yes, the fetes.
Yeah, the fetes where you just dance all day and you sweat like juice because it was so hot in the auditorium. But those were definitely things that I remember. I joined the cadet for 1 year, and I said, no, so this is not for me. So because marching around in the hot sun, I figured that wasn't for me. But definitely going to support all the guys with their soccer or cricket, or when the girls had to play softball and netball. Those were fun times for me. And again, during our time frame, that's when, hip hop and scratching music was all in. So I know there used to be break dancing. So during lunchtime, everybody have a cardboard box they would throw down, and guys would be spinning on top of them head and all of that. And in the classrooms, in the chemistry labs, they had those Formica desktops, and they would be there with them 10 cents scratching on it and singing and beatboxing. So lots of fun memories. Good conversations too.
Right.
But I have to say that there was one time where our whole class got busted by Mrs. McLennan because the teacher didn't show up for the class, and we were in there having a good old time chatting and stuff. And she gave us lines to write, and I still remember it to this day. Persistent perversity provokes patient prefect, producing painful pencil pushing.
Yes.
I remember that.
Oh, Miss McLennan gave you that. That sounded like something from Mr. Grant.
No, that was Miss McLennan. She was walking around, and she heard our class just We were just having good conversation because the teacher did not come, and we had to write this thing over and over.
Lines, yes.
Yes, and through the years, I have still remembered that tongue twister. So
yeah, I still remember it too. I still remember she used to drive around after school. We used to walk home, and thinking about it now, it's probably 1.5 miles or 2 miles from Meadowbrook to get home to where we lived in Arlene Gardens. And she used to drive in her car around Havendale and around the Meadowbrook area, around Arlene Gardens, to make sure we were all being circumspect, wearing our uniforms properly and not misbehaving on the journey home.
That's what you did?
Yes, because you were representing the school, so you had to be well dressed, and the boys had to wear their epaulets all the time.
I was not
You couldn't eat any chips or drink juice or anything like that in uniform and make her catch you, because the next day you would have to go to her office. No, you had to be representing the school. Your socks had to be pulled up, and if she see you with a bag juice, the next day, you were getting called in.
And I always wonder how the people at the school know when something happened at the school. I thought there was a woolly pine farm at school. I didn't know there was do the police work.
Yeah.
She was there.
She believed in us being ambassadors for the school, and when we were in uniform, we had to carry ourselves well. And Andrea, I think I clocked it a while back because I was curious too, and I think it's about 3 miles.
Okay.
That we did from home to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about that. I used to live in Permaca. It's about the same distance. It's like just across the Mullines Road from home. And I used to walk to and from school. There was no convenient bus from Permaca to Meadowbrook at all. So I just
same for us, but I think it did us well with our exercise. Wonderful memories.
And let me ask you a question. And I started you this time, Andrea, and then Beverly and Karen can comment on this. When you guys started Meadowbrook was known as a Cinderella school, right? In terms of we didn't have much to say. We can shout from the mountaintop about to say, Meadowbrook achieved that.
Yeah.
And by the time you became Rhodes Scholar in 1989, I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Meadowbrook had won, as I say, in our opening thing, 4 cricket trophies and 2 football trophies, or 5 and 2. How were you aware of the transition that took place during the time you were at Meadowbrook? It started with you there in 1982. The significance of the transformation.
I don't know if I was conscious of what was happening, but I knew we had teachers who really cared. And, Miss McLennan was in charge at the time with the quality of school that she wanted to create and a pride in being a Meadowbrook student. So for us, Bev and Karen will add their thoughts to this, but for us, coming from a school that we knew nothing about before Karen went there, to this school that was very clear on their vision, very well led, had teachers who invested in you. It was creating a community of people who wanted to do something with their lives. So there's no surprises that it went on to achieve. Even, the ISCF, I think, played I know it played a huge part in my life and my values, but it was a key part of the school. A lot of the leadership was part of the ISCF, real influence in the conversations with the teachers about the direction with the student body and so on, very engaged. I think there was so much going on that there was a groundswell of quality. I don't know the inside scoop on what they were being intentional about, but I know it was clear vision and people who cared.
Yeah. Were you surprised that we won a cricket trophy in 1982? You were at school. Were you surprised that we had done that? Or you weren't following it?
I wasn't following it closely, but I also wasn't surprised because I could see that cricket and what was the other sports that were becoming really important, that it was getting the attention and the investment.
Yeah, Manning Cup soccer.
Manning Cup soccer, yeah.
She's in England, you can't tell her football.
They say football.
And netball as well. Netball as well from the early 80s.
Yeah.
We were definitely in track and field as well, because remember Donut Mir, aka
yes.
one of gold medal champs. And then
yeah.
Howard Thomas won the 100 meters for class 3.
Right.
So yes, we were getting on the other name there in champs as well.
Yeah. I know when I started, we were definitely considered an underdog in the community. But we, as a student body, had a lot of pride. We had a lot of pride and would be very defensive of our school. So I knew quite a few of the guys that played on the cricket team, the Sunlight, and the soccer and the football teams and so on. Like you mentioned, netball was also big. We had a few wins in track and field. I remember the twins that ran. I don't remember their names, but
Patrick,
yes,
Patrick
yes.
and Paul Smith.
Yes, those guys were amazing. I know Sean used to run track as well.
Yeah.
So those were fun times, and I think eventually we started putting our name on the map. Something that's also interesting that I remember kids who didn't pass like O levels from other schools that were considered prestigious and ended up having to come to Meadowbrook. And in the first couple of months, they were like so down that they had to come to this underdog school, and ended up saying at the end of their terms, boy, this was the best time they had in their lives. So,
And also Schools Challenge. You remember we were big.
Yes.
I
was going to mention that.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention that. I think one of the pluses for Meadowbrook too is that because it was so in the middle of a residential area, it had the community support. It wasn't just the school. And you had people, looking out for the students and thing there. But I remember Schools Challenge with Dennis Hall.
Yes.
Oh yes, I forget to use the horse. That is so true.
Yes. Yeah, Dennis Hall and Meadowbrook did good with that.
So,
and we were a significantly smaller school than a lot of the big schools that did well. And also we were split between girls and boys, so they had larger numbers to excel in sports than we had, but
that's true.
Came up quite strong.
Yes, we didn't make that stop us. We still pushed through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, much more girls than boys. As a matter of fact, it's like it was a 2-to-1. I think the ratio was 400 girls and like 800 boys. So
Oh really?
Yeah.
Why you have your facts, man? I'm impressed. That's awesome.
So, but let me ask you something, Karen. I mean, were you surprised that that Meadowbrook started to, in a sense, blossom out to become a powerhouse of a school? Because by the time Andrea got her Rhodes Scholar in 1989, Meadowbrook was well known throughout the Jamaica.
Yes.
Were you surprised?
Not at all, because they had it in them, and they had great leadership, and they had people who cared for the students and would push them. Like Andrea said, Mr. Lawson had a great impact on me too. Mrs. Morris, they had people there that cared about the students and wanted them to do their best. So no, I think as time and funds and opportunity allowed, they were able to take advantage of it and move forward with it.
And you mentioned Mr. Lawson, Andrea. You spoke about Mr. Lawson earlier. And it sounds like Mr. Lawson had a significant impact in terms of how you speak about Mr. Lawson.
Boy, Mr. Lawson, he was just a very gentle, patient,
humble,
very humble. He's the guy who used to, every time there was the fete and you had to work out the statistics or, the numbers for who would win and how many throws, the average throws that you needed to do to know how many prizes to put on, like the coconut shy and all the different. He would be the one working out all of that. That's one of the things I remember. But Mr. Lawson, when I had done maths in 4th form, he suggested that I should go for further maths in A level and all of that. And I wasn't. He would sit down and write notes explaining it, in after school lessons, one-on-one to help me curriculum, and I did not value that enough and give it enough attention. He was basically writing notes for me, and those are the things that I reflected on when I got to, when I was coming to the final year of university, and thought, for all that time, all that effort, all that belief, all that patience, all that encouragement, this one is for Mr. Lawson, as well as for my parents, and the fact that your first degree, the grade you get there would that's what people would remember more than O levels and A levels.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Lawson was on my mind all those times, sitting down after lessons, writing the notes, and I wasn't giving it the attention that I should. I said, "This one's for you."
He gave a lot of his own time to helping the students, as Andrea says, staying after hours and all of that. He really, really did. And he was really a whiz at math.
Yeah.
He made it seem easy.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Absolutely.
He did. And Beverly, I must ask you this because you end up marrying your high school sweetheart. Was it love at first sight?
No, it wasn't. You know, and I love him dearly, and I share this story all the time. I have been 5'11" since I was 12 years old, so you can imagine that. When I met him in the second form, he didn't reach past my shoulder. He was much shorter than I was. But I'll tell you this: the very first time he saw me, he said to me, "When I get to be taller than you, I'm going to marry you." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." How is that ever going to happen? And I honestly believe he willed and prayed himself to grow. He's now 6'2" because he is taller than everybody else in his family, and so am I. I'm taller than everybody else in his family, and you know. But it was a great foundation because we were friends. It was a good group of friends. He was always you know, somebody I could talk to and be roots and real with. And I knew he always liked me, but you know, the boyfriend thing wasn't what my parents wanted at a young age. So we stayed the course. Became very good friends. So yeah.
I will tell on her a little story. Sean was very confident from the beginning. You hear? Let me just tell you, because in the days when they would take pictures, you know how you take pictures and you share pictures with everybody. When he gave her one of his, he said to my wife on it, and this was probably first form or second form.
It was third form.
Third form. So he knew from even then. Yes.
Yeah.
And Dante, Sean, are you bona fide? Him never telling a secret?
No. Actually, we were bona fide from primary school.
Yeah.
We went to Constant Spring together, and then we went to Meadowbrook together. We were in the same class, actually. Yeah, but I knew from first round that him had that kind of interest. I never saw it going any other way.
Wow. Sean,
I
you
wish
the guy who was missing. I used to tell him off for wearing white socks and not having his epaulets on.
But all you in Beverly is following a long line of tradition at Meadowbrook. I mentioned my brother and Alison already. And my sister also married somebody from Meadowbrook for a short time.
Oh.
Yeah, my sister married to Stedman Mason. He has been on this conversation before. He was head boy, yeah. So it's a long line of tradition. You're not doing anything that a lot of Meadowbrook people have done. Mark Delapena married to Melanie Delphos, he told me. Yes. So
and Keith White as well.
Yeah, Keith married to Subadan.
Paul.
Yeah. So it is.
I don't know if y'all remember Leighton Forrest. He married. He married Joan. What was her last name again? Nicholson. Although later in life, but they got married too.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. That happened to Paulette. I mean, I've had a Meadowbrook couple on this program, the first one, and they met afterwards. It's not like they were Meadowbrook couples out of school. They married and then they met again like 20 years. Two of them have met, as a matter of fact. It is Meadowbrook people just seem like they can't keep the eyes and hands off each other. So it's so you're in good company, Beverly. Don't worry, you're in great company.
Yes. Believe me, I am the one that is blessed. He is such a good man, a good dad, a good provider, you know. And he is my best friend, so I'm very grateful.
Good.
Yeah.
And it's not here, and probably would have joined us if he could, so we have to big him up
here,
you know. So
absolutely.
I hope one day he won't come tell him side of the story and join the conversation. And you can't let him know that. Open door to jelly, so it's all right. So let me ask you another question, Karen. What's the most embarrassing moment you remember at Meadowbrook that you can look back on with a
Oh,
smile?
Lord. Boy, that's a hard one. I couldn't play netball. I think that's probably it. I couldn't play to the skill that they wanted in order to be on the netball team. So I only did it for PE, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. So you couldn't even catch a ball, and that's what you're saying. You couldn't even catch a ball?
I couldn't pivot properly. The pivot was the issue.
Oh, I got you.
So I was one of those where you know how them separate and you have to pick team. I wasn't one of the ones that they picked a lot. So that was embarrassing and sometimes hurt, but you know. So it go. That's it for me.
That sounds like me on the track team.
Yeah. Now, what I wanted to do, and I think Meadowbrook could have done good at if they had it, was lawn tennis. That is, I used to go up there on Saturdays and play lawn tennis with friends, but we didn't have it as a sports team, and I wished they did or would have looked into that because that's something I would have pursued had they done that.
And Paula, do you remember when that stopped? Because my sister used to play lawn tennis in her days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember it being a school team. I think we had badminton for a while. We had badminton for a while, but lawn tennis.
Never lawn tennis.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I remember my sister with her lawn tennis racket and our...
Yes.
And those days, that confirmed me. I spoke to Andrea Kingbird, and she said, yes, Meadowbrook students used to wear a beret. I don't know if you guys know that. The girls...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to wear it.
You used to wear it, Paula, when you started?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know that. When I gave...
I didn't.
What
went in the head. I don't know. A heavy wool beret.
A green one, right?
Yeah, come from some British tradition. And we were walking down Border Avenue and Meadowbrook Avenue in the blaring sun in this beret. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, when
I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I call those beret the Che Guevara beret, so yeah.
Yeah, they look like that.
if you know that famous Che Guevara portrait with him on the beret, you know what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, I think I probably wore it for a year and then they didn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I remember my sister wearing it. I wasn't sure if I was seeing doubles, but when I spoke to Andrea, she said, yeah, Andrea Kingbird, yeah, she said, yes, we used to wear beret. Yeah.
For sure.
And so, Andrea, the most embarrassing moment you can remember at Meadowbrook, you can look back on with a smile.
Well, mine is in the sports as well, because with my height, everybody assumed I could run fast. And they put me in this race expecting me to lap it up and do really well. But when I was 11, I had a real scare where my lungs collapsed and I couldn't breathe and had to get mouth to mouth. So anything to do with running out of breath, I was not interested in at all. I would exchange... Every time you have your sports assignment, I would always find somebody who would do netball, who would swap with me to do netball instead of going to do anything to do with running or whatever. But in one of the sports events with Rothney, somehow I ended up having to do the run and everybody expected me to really leg it and it just was not happening. So that was very embarrassing. Expectations versus results.
Yes.
Yeah, but you have to mention that after all of that, you did run the London Marathon, which is a huge achievement. After all of that.
She did. She did. Yeah.
She did.
You talk about that. Talk about that. Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, what prompted you to do that? That is somebody who was scared of running. What inspired you to do that? I'm curious.
Well, I to get into the marathon, you have to kind of go into a lottery. And my husband and his brother were keen that they were going to do it. And as somebody who feared running, I always admired people who could run and thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could? So when they entered the marathon, the lottery, everybody assured me there is no way you can win and the money will go to charity. So I decided to put my name forward, sure that I wouldn't get it. They got a beautiful zip-up tracksuit top with London Marathon on it as a consolatory prize. Sorry you didn't get into the lottery. I got a magazine on how to run and no zip-up jacket. This was congratulations, you're in. And I was physically sick that day when I got it. And it took me a few weeks before I decided to accept it, to just talk myself into this is the moment if ever you're going to do anything to overcome this fear. And eventually, you know, bit by bit, I set 2 goals. I decided I didn't want anybody to pressure me with how many miles you must do by which day or whatever. I set 2 goals to finish before they stop handing out the medal, which was, you know, later, once it get dark, they would start erasing the lines, and to make sure that the cars weren't back on the road before I finished. That was the goal I set myself and took the pressure off of everything. And then ran with different people. I ran with a nurse at first who started doing marathons in her 40s. She was my neighbor, and she said, you can do it, come with me. And the only reason why I went is because I knew if I dropped down and couldn't breathe, she would be there. She's a nurse. That's how I started. Then I started doing laps around. At the time I was living somewhere that had acres around it, and I figured I could run around the house and cover miles without ever going too far. And it was all those baby steps to build my confidence until I was running 10 miles without stopping, 13 miles without stopping, which was just amazing that I could run out of breath and not die, which was what was in my head from I had that experience at 11. And eventually finished it. It took a lot longer than many people who set that as a goal to run a marathon, but I did do it inside 6.5 hours and got the medal to show for it. So yeah, that was my moment to conquer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm glad, and thanks for mentioning that, Beverly. We would not have known that unless you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's an inspiring story, and Andrea, Hakib, don't worry.
It's 2011.
Yeah. So, Beverly, any embarrassing moment at Meadowbrook you can remember? You look back on it with a smile?
I think, that was a hard one for me. I don't really remember any embarrassing moments, except that because my sisters preceded me, there was a certain level of expectation academically for me that was always over my head. So whenever I didn't perform to their caliber, especially with math and admaths, which is not my strong suit, the thought process was, but you're Andrea's sister. And I still have some of my report cards from Meadowbrook where they always say Beverly is not living up to her full potential. She's talking too much in class. I guess that's the party side that's coming out. So, and that's the only thing that I don't know if it's embarrassment more than just this weight that I felt. That would probably be it. For everything else, no, I enjoyed every aspect of it.
Okay, Andrea, let me ask you this question then. When you became Rhodes Scholar in 1989, how did that make you feel, and what inspired you? Did Cavell inspire you to say you could be Rhodes Scholar too? Walk us through that time frame in terms of when you became Rhodes Scholar. And that was such a quick time after Cavell came. It's like I said, okay, Meadowbrook will produce a Rhodes Scholar every year, and that has not happened since. So talk to us about that.
So, boy, as they say, story come up to bump with that one. So I had graduated from UWI in 1986. And I was on a government scholarship, so I went to work with Ministry of Finance for 3 years after that. And I suppose after a couple of years post-grad, you start thinking, what next? How do you want your career to develop? I never thought I would qualify for, it just never dawned on me to even dare to think I could apply for something as amazing as the Rhodes Scholarship. And it was a boyfriend at the time who insisted that I should apply, wasn't paying him any attention with the application. And even while I was on holiday, he went and he got the form to get my mom to help to fill in the details to put that application in for me to go for the Rhodes Scholar, because I just didn't think I just didn't think it was me. And got invited to the interview, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is serious. And I didn't realize that they would actually announce on the night of the interview who would get it. So I just went there being myself, saying, I'll do this interview and we'll see where it goes. I had no pressure about any decisions being made that night. And because my surname was Wright at the time, they were interviewing everybody in alphabetical order. And I remember it was at the Governor General's house. It was Floresville Gospel at the time. And because it was in alphabetical order, I was the last person. So start out with all these people in the room, and then one by one, I was on my own hours later and just bored. But the whole room on two sides, the walls were louvered windows from top to bottom. And out of boredom, I sat there and counted every one of those louvers. When I went into the interview, Floresville Gospel said to me, Miss Wright, I'm so sorry that we kept you waiting all this time. And I said, Your Excellency, you have, I don't remember the number, but like 1,432 louvers on your veranda. And he just burst out laughing like, this woman is crazy. And that just set the tone for a wonderful interview where they, asked about my ambitions and what I'd done and, community work that I was involved in and the leadership roles and so on. And because I wasn't sporty, that's one of the reasons why I didn't think I'd even stood a chance. But they announced on the night, you're it, honey, you're it. And I tell you what, I was in two minds. I was really, really excited and processing it, but desperately afraid that after I went home and tell my parents, they would put somebody else's name in the newspaper the next day. So it wasn't until it was in print that I went, wow, totally honored, totally humbled, but totally proud to have had the Rhodes Scholarship and to be able to, I was invited back to Meadowbrook to speak shortly after that and to be there to say it's possible. And I got it and I'm off to England. That was amazing. That was really, it felt like all the things that were invested in me in those years, all the people who believed in me all those years, that I had something to give back, to show. So it was amazing. It was amazing. My dad cried. My mom told me it was because I borrowed her earrings. But she was delighted. And yeah, it was really, really special. And, like I said, I came here to get my master's and I got my Mr. as well. So it was all divinely appointed. It meant to happen.
Patrick, you have any questions for Andrea about her Rhodes Scholar journey?
Let me see now. So was it difficult adjusting to the UK? I mean, it's a different culture, it's a different climate. How was that for you?
Yeah, there were some, as they say, surprise and sense-making moments. I remember one of the first things was, in Jamaica, the thought of going to a bar. A young woman wouldn't be going to a bar to go and hang out. It would sound very dodgy if you said that. But the pub life here in England is, families have lunches at pubs. The idea of just going down to the pub for a drink and a chat was something that challenged me initially. The weather was interesting. I came with all kinds of duvets and blankets and layers just in case they didn't have the room warm enough. But thankfully they did, so I didn't need all the stuff that I brought. Having to understand what fashion looked like in sweaters and jumpers and stockings and what was considered fashionable and what was considered frumpy. I had to get my head around all of that stuff. It's those little things that stood out that I remembered. But going to Oxford and all the spires and all the things you heard about it and so on, that was magical when you consider, growing up in Jamaica, I never ever thought I would live outside of Jamaica. I thought I was going to come study and then go back. But yeah, trajectory of life changed completely. I still would love to go back and give back. That's still on the horizons, but yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Can
Really, really
imagine.
special.
Curious though, how was the campus, the Oxford campus compared to like a UWI? Was there any similarity or was it just a very different
Um, that's a good question. It's different in that so Oxford and Cambridge have a very different campus style to lots of other universities where you have the university where you do the courses and that's where you get your degree from, but your home is based on different, it's a college system. So you have your college and that's where you reside, you have your tutors. We were part of, because I studied management, now because Oxford is very traditional. When I studied management, in the early 1990s, management was still considered not as what's the right word? Not as official. It's not like law or politics
right,
or
right.
all these things that
Yeah.
have the real history. Management was still the newbie in town. And so the management college that I was at was outside. It was a postgraduate college and it was outside the center of London. But the good thing is, because it was the center of excellence for management, all the executive development programs were at this college. So the standard of food, the standard of accommodation, everything had to cater for the executives. So even though we were outside the hub, so to speak, of Oxford, those who were in the traditional colleges with the old buildings with no heating and very low doors and all the history there were jealous of what we had in the newbie college. The irony, of course, is that right now the business school is in the center of Oxford because it's seen as a bona fide big deal subject now. So because of that, the experience was a wonderful blend of history and also cutting edge.
And Paul, do you have any questions you want Andrea about this journey?
I was curious as to, I'm not really clear on how Rhodes Scholarship worked. Yeah, I thought it's something that kind of came while you were studying, but this you're saying happened while you were working, right?
Yeah, it happened 3 years later. And that's another reason why I didn't think I would get it, because I thought it was, at the end of your first degree or while you were studying and all I think Cavell applied for it. Mind you, she was the year before me. So she must have gone and done a master's or done something in between finishing first degree as well. So it's certainly one of, if not the most thinking of the right word here. Not just prestigious,
unknown. Yeah, go ahead.
the most funded Rhodes Scholar. So it's like the highest scholarship that you can get. Certainly one of those in terms of funding your studies. And there are, at the time that I got it, there were something like 70 all around the world. Only one for Jamaica and one for the rest of the Caribbean. That probably is still the case now. So it was really, and still is really, a big deal to be able to qualify for it. And they look for a broad spectrum of experience, but what they're really after is people who, wherever they end up in the world, will make a difference and will be part of the kind of global leadership in one way or another. So for many reasons, I was very humbled to get it and still feel the onus on me to make good of that belief in me.
Yeah, and Dante, you have any questions, Andrea, about this particular journey? Because it's important, because that's why I'm going around the table for asks. Because I think Meadowbrook students will want to hear that journey in terms, and I wonder if you have any questions.
Right. No, so not so much a question, but just to let Andrea know that was one of the proudest moments for Meadowbrookans around the world when she was announced, and it was a back-to-back thing.
Yeah.
And it gave us, some of the other Meadowbrookans that went to the football matches and the champs and stuff like that. It gave us an opportunity to brag to some of the more established schools, you know, brag about it. So certainly one of our proudest moments. Yeah,
that is true, Dante, and the fact that it was back to back, or as they are saying, a race term. It was a Quinella.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Right. So it's something that was, that we talked about for years. Yeah.
And we still talk about it. We still talk about it. I just want Andrea know that. We still talk about it.
Yeah. So, well, I am honored and humbled to be flying that flag on behalf of Meadowbrook. Mm-hmm. And Meadowbrook deserves the attention that will produce, for sure.
So, Karen, not leaving you out of this conversation, I want to know how you feel as the older sister when you heard that your sister was a Rhodes Scholar, and it's no small feat that.
I was very proud of her. We were rooting for her once we knew that she was in the application process. At that time, I was already in North Carolina working on my undergraduate and graduate degrees in speech pathology. And I remember her telling me the story about how she was sitting there waiting and had counted all the louvers. And I was quite impressed that she, even though she was, nervous, waiting, anticipating, she had the wits about her to not only do that, which would help the time pass, but to go in and tell Florizel Glasspool that she counted all the louvers there. It exuded a little bit of confidence in her. I remember being very proud of her. I think my second most proud moment I had for her was when she completed that marathon, especially after all of the challenges that she had. So, yeah, I was proud of her.
And Beverly, I want to know your comment in terms of when you hear your bigger sister was Rhodes Scholar. How did that make you feel? Talk about that for us.
I was very excited for her. We shared a room as girls when we were growing up. So I remember the night before she was nervous, and I remember praying for her that night. I still remember what she wore. And another thing that, a lot of people may not know about Andrea. Andrea has always been very creative and a seamstress in her own right. And she was wearing a black skirt with a white shirt and a yellow jacket. And she was going to wear this black hat. And the black hat had just this black ribbon on it. And she decided that she wanted to give it a little pop of something. So she sat down the night before the interview with white out and made little polka dots all the way.
Yes.
Made little white polka dots all around this ribbon on her hat because she just wanted to add that little pop of flair to it. So I guess that was one way that she was able to burn the nervousness by, just concentrating on making these perfectly asymmetrical dots on the rim of this hat. So I was extremely excited when she got the news that she did. And I remember my dad crying and my mom hugging her and jumping up and down with her. It was really a joy. And from a school perspective, like I said, Meadowbrook has always felt like a little bit of the underdog because of all the, the champions and immaculate and so on, and having produced 2 back-to-back Rhodes Scholars really put us on the map. And I know a lot of people started transferring to Meadowbrook after that. So
yes,
Meadowbrook, yes.
Exactly.
And little after that, there was a 1994, about 3 or 4 years after that, a 1994 article that came out in the Gleaner, a UNESCO study that showed that Meadowbrook was the #1 school in terms of, and this is how they measured the thing, in terms of when a student started, how they started in general, and the grade level improvement in the show. Meadowbrook was outstanding, defeated all other schools in terms of the level of improvement for the school. Yes.
Around number 1. Jelly, I remember it, they refer to it as a value-added thing, right?
Yes.
I heard it and I said, wow, that is so true.
Yeah, man. So if you want your child to improve, Meadowbrook was the place to send them.
Wow.
In general. It wasn't like the pick, and not like Meadowbrook pick or get the best of the crop, or Meadowbrook got good students, but the improvement was far exceeding in terms of I found that article the other day. I went out about it in some more on some other podcast. Somebody had mentioned it to me. Somebody had mentioned
Yeah.
it to me.
That's what happens when you have teachers who care about students.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
But let me ask you a question, Karen. Let me go back to you and ask you a question. This question now is
Yes.
almost like with the future or the present day. What do you think can be done to inspire Meadowbrook alums to want to give back to our schools?
What can be done to inspire them? I think realizing what they have accomplished because of the start that they got there, and realizing the value that that has to getting them to where they are now, and going back to share with others that, look, it may seem like an impossible thing to accomplish at your stage right now, but this is where I'm gotten to, and this is how I got there, and you can do it too. Especially with Andrea's story about the Rhodes Scholar. You know, we did it once, we did it twice, and we can do it again. So I think just sharing their story, knowing that that's where they got their start from, and this is where you are now, but I'm here to tell you, I am here because I was there, and you can do it too.
And Andrea, the same question to you. What can be done to inspire past students of Meadowbrook to want to give back to our schools?
Well, I was really excited about doing this call because I felt very unplugged. I don't know if there is a chapter or Meadowbrook alumni organization that exists here in England, but I've not been aware of it or a part of it. And I think some kind of effort to do what you're doing here, to gather together those who've been and have an easier way of giving back, either in person or through funds or whatever, creating maybe chapters in England. I know there's some in New York that already meet up, maybe other places around the world, but I felt very unplugged. And I think if we have a means of just amassing the diaspora, for want of a better word, and an easy way of contributing to the school, that would be half the battle won.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, and you have some thoughts on that. But Beverley, your thoughts on this matter? What you think can be done to inspire past students to want to give back to Meadowbrook?
Well, first of all, I want to commend you again on doing this podcast, because for me, you know, sharing your podcast and people being able to search friends that they probably went to school with and hearing their memories and so on will draw them in. For sure with that, I am connected with the New York chapter alumni through Facebook. So people like, I know CRD Franklin is a part of it, Oswald Barrett, Yolande Henry, I see Luke Witter on it, and they've had different functions. Sean and I actually attended one in Fort Lauderdale a couple years ago, and it was just so great going to, you know, I think Sonia Morris and so on was there too. It was great to connect with some of them there. So I know they have a good, that's where I get a lot of my Meadowbrook high school communication from, all the different, I know Donovan, you're heavily involved in that too. All the different fundraisers that they do and so on. So sharing those, I don't think they call it, it's not a GoFundMe, but whatever links they have for donations and so on, we've been a part of that. But I think I was not aware of your podcast until, you know, we were invited to do so. And I know for sure that I'll definitely be sharing it with people in my group that I'm still connected with. And hopefully, you know, they'll reach out to you and get involved as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And Paulette, I didn't ask you this question when you were on, but what do you think can be done to inspire Meadowbrook past students to want to give back to our school, to our beloved school?
Yeah, I think, you know, we need to kind of have some way to have an awareness of what's going on there now, in order to feel connected. And I was just thinking as Beverly was talking that, you know, the pandemic has taught us so much about leveraging platforms of communication that are not in person. So for persons who are in places where they can have an actual physical chapter of Past Students Association. I think, having some kind of virtual platform for people like that to connect would be a source of inspiration for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Patrick, I know I haven't spoken to you in a while, but I know I didn't ask you this question. Any thoughts in terms of what you think can be done to inspire Meadowbrook past students to want to give back?
I think what you're doing right now is on the right track because it's kind of creating content for an audience, and if we can get more people to listen, they might be inspired. I remember some time ago, trying to remember his name, but I think they call him Beanie. He was trying to get past students to contribute to sports in particular. I'm trying to remember if it was a Money Cup team or which team. But if we get people like those to join in, especially on a forum such as this, I don't know if folks are on Facebook or whichever other social media platform, just bring them in.
Yeah.
As you notice, a few of us, even on this call, there are several of us overseas, or we're part of the diaspora, so to speak. And I think there are many more. If we can just kind of make contact and have a forum where people can come in, that's a start, But what you're doing right now, Jolie, I think is a step in the right direction. It just need to be.
Yeah, we'll start the dialogue. I think we need to do a little more. And I think, Andrea, you put it the right way. And I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to put it in my own way. All I will know is when I go to Jamaica and we go country, right? And you stop and ask the direction. What the answer you get?
Round the corner.
Just round the corner.
I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Round the corner.
Right.
I'm saying there needs to be a structural organization. I don't know what it is. That when a medical person reach out to them don't want to hear around the corner. What them want to know, say, when you go to that organization, them are going to tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Them not telling you if you say around the corner, I need to go do this or go do that. Them need to tell you. I asked a question the other day and I said, if somebody have $1 million I want to give back to Meadowbrook tomorrow, who am I going to go to?
Exactly.
Right.
And those monies are out there. It's not like those money not out there. People, Meadowbrook have been in existence for 65 years. By now, some of these people might be, some of them have died younger than, but I'm saying some of these people in their age and they start thinking about, I said, but they have money, what they're going to, they want to leave to them school, but who are they going to? There's no organization that can take care of that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So do you hit the net? That's what I'm thinking about it. Just think about it and I say, it can't be around the corner where I tell the people, man. It cannot be around the corner. It has to be a structured.
But Jelly, there's something here. I think there is a past students association. I remember this fellow. I think someone mentioned him on the call earlier, and he lives in South Florida, I believe. But they used to run a lot of fits. But I know that they had meetings at the school in Jamaica at some point. Like they had a whole week of activities. Maybe that organization could be more formalized. You guys know what I'm talking about. Donovan, you might know.
Actually, there is and first let me answer. Andrea was querying about a chapter in
London, in the UK, yeah.
There's none, but there is an active past students association with active chapters in New York and Canada.
Right.
Funny enough, the most vibrant chapter initially was the South Florida, the Florida chapter, and that has gone. I think it has gone, out. It's not active anymore, but there are still activities there. That's organized perhaps by the New York folks and some other folks in Florida.
The New York one seems to be much more active because that's the one I'm connected with on Facebook, and I believe they even have an event that's coming up in April, because I remember mentioning it to Sean to see if it's something that we would be able to attend.
And because I said this, Dante, I don't want nobody hear take my question to me and knock in these old student association,
Right.
I just come out and start run out my mouth from last year. I have been in witness protection, for want of a better word. I was missing in action for 20 odd years too, right? From my left school, I really go back on Meadowbrook and say, I don't like what you did, Dante. So big respect to everybody. I can make sure to that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, just like what Paulette say, and what the pandemic has taught us, we need to leverage the online infrastructure available. And we have to think outside of the box and think a different way. And not, I just make it clear, you know, I'm not knocking nobody. I what them doing now. I don't want nobody come and say, boy, Jelly, I lick. No.
No.
I just make it abundant. No, I just make it abundantly clear, Andrea. I just have to do that because people hear me talk and I just want better for Meadowbrook. My goal is, if a man want to get $1 billion for Meadowbrook tomorrow, him know where to go.
Yeah.
I may say that don't exist now. That's all me I say.
No.
That's all I say. Not a knock on nobody at all. Nobody exists who can verify so that money is not money laundered money. You understand what I say to you, Dante? There's so much things involved with that. You know, nothing like that exists now. I may say.
Yeah.
That's all I say. Me just say we can do better and we can get. Me not knocking nobody, Dante. It's a 21st century vision me I look on. That's all me I say.
And as I've said on this program a number of times, Shelly, what you are doing is probably going to be the catalyst to bring in to opening the avenues to a wider audience. You know, the chapters that, the persons that have been involved, you know, myself and a few other persons have been fighting the fight, but we have not been able, and perhaps, you know, we were just not doing the right thing. We've not been able to expose then the avenue. As you say, we have not been able to show people, all the persons out there, the way, as you say, we you know, people probably mention something to somebody in passing, but there, you know, nobody, you just hear around the corner, as you say, nobody has been able to show them.
No, I'm not nobody. The time just coming now because COVID and the pandemic has what we have to say. We can't know only for things different, man. That's all me I say.
Yeah, man.
It's not a knock on nobody. I want to make sure I say that over and over. That nobody not take it personal and think I lick nobody.
No, man.
So hold on, Jelly.
Yeah.
Is anyone in touch with the administration of the school, the current administration?
Yeah.
We're in touch with that, but
we're in touch. I mean, we actually bought a school bus. I mean, the local chapter, Canadian folks, and the New York chapter came together and bought a bus for the school.
Wonderful.
That's good. Excellent.
A few years ago, it was bought in maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. The school is owning a bus. So some things are happening, but this that Jelly's doing now is exposing or opening the avenue, I said.
I prefer the word Dante. I'm not exposing nobody. Me wanting, listen, I'm not here for expose nobody. That's not my job. Me wanting big up, listen, me wanting, when me use Andrea term, me wanting Rhodes Scholar big vision. Big vision.
Big vision, right.
You understand what I say? I'm not here for expose nobody. Me just say what we have to think big. That's all I say.
Yeah,
that's what I say. I'm not here for expose nobody, Dante. I just
have to sure. That's the better way. Exactly. I think, as Beverly said, I think it was Beverly that no persons are hearing their people that they went to school with speaking about their memories and knowing that there is some way to connect now to the school.
Yeah.
So that's it.
It's a start.
Yeah, man.
It's just a start. Yeah. So I don't want nobody hard on themselves and think that them do nothing wrong. Because I say I was missing in action for the longest while. I'm not doing nothing for the school. May I admit that? So, but anyway, may I ask Andrea and Karen and Beverly a couple more questions. And you first, Karen. How does it make how does it make you feel bringing up back all these Meadowbrook memories after all these years, over 40 odd years?
Well, first of all, Jenny, I want to say I think that what you're doing is definitely a step in the right direction to meet even the very heart and goal of what you're seeing as far as reaching out to Meadowbrookites, not only past but present. And I think as long as we continue with that and getting the word out there as to what's available, where they are available as far as groups. And then that will answer the question in how we can give back to Meadowbrook. For me, it just brings back, like you said, a lot of memories. Even while Andrea and Bev were talking, more names of classmates was coming back to me, and I was writing them down and thinking, I wonder where they are now, what are they doing now.
Call out the name, Karen.
Well, I know you mentioned Melanie Delfos. I remember Michael Delfos, Michelle Smith, Marcia Leckie, Jackie Eitel, Annette Cawley. Janet Scott was in my class. She was a math whiz. She really, really did well with her math with Mr. Lawson. I told you about Allison Ramsey. And I'm sure if I sat down and thought about it, I would think of even more, because I was not only thinking of who was in my class, but remember those forms were broken up into A, B, and C.
Right.
So some of them was in the same year group, but not necessarily in my class
in
group.
The A stream, right.
Yes.
Right.
And then Meadowbrook continued to grow to that point where I think it was after I left, but Bev may have experienced this, where they had 2 shifts, remember? So some had to come in at 7. And then the second one came in at 9. So it's showing that Meadowbrook had started to grow. And I am sure that even though I have been missing in action for a while too, the same kind of feelings that I'm having, thinking of past classmates and wondering where they are, would also be generated in other people who could find out about this and what you're doing, and also be inspired to say, okay, what can I do to help? How can I give back? So it's definitely going down memory lane. It's definitely nostalgic. And it's definitely a way of looking back at where I have come to from where I came from, and how I could inspire other people who are there now, that they can get to where they want to go to as well. And it may not necessarily be what they thought it was when they started. Like for me, I didn't even think I would be at Meadowbrook. I thought I would be at an all-girls Catholic school. But that change in trajectory changed the rest of my life. And I think others will realize too that, their lives may not always seem like it might be at that point in time, but it can change based on the inspiration that they get.
And before you answer that question for me, Andrea, in terms of how it make you feel after going on, but did I send you a copy of the Meadowbrook magazine that I have?
For me, yes, you sent 3 of them.
Okay, I just
3 or
wanted to
4.
make sure. Right?
I shared it.
Yeah,
I shared it.
You shared it, and all right. So, how does it make you feel bringing back all these Meadowbrook memories after all these years? 40 years, I just said, this year.
Yeah, 40 years. Well, I'll resist the trite comment that it makes me feel old to be saying I'm talking about 40 years. What I will say is that it brings back the warm memories. It things that I've not thought about, people I've not thought about for a while. It's brought it back to the fore, and I think it just makes me want to be involved. It makes me want to be connected, and I realize that there's a whole part of my life that, it's 40 years since I've really been involved in that, apart from the fact that I'm part of a trio where every now and again we go back to the memories of Meadowbrook, and as Bev said, having Sean, somebody who I knew as a student and related to as a student, and now have, as we say, brother in love, because thankfully us 3 girls have married really great guys. So for each of us, the husbands are like brothers. So 4 of us out of the 6 of us are from Meadowbrook, and having this conversation is just bringing to the fore all the investment that was made in us and all that it's created in our lives long term because of that experience at Meadowbrook. So it's wonderful. We need to do more of this.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And Beverly, the same thing for you. How does it make you feel bringing back all these Meadowbrook memories?
It feels so good because I often share with my children that those were some of the best years of my life. I made, you always talk about people that you meet for a reason, season, or lifetime. I've made some really good lifetime friends that we're still connected. It's nice to be connected through Facebook with, like Karen said, not everybody was in your class, but in your year or a year ahead. So through that alumni Facebook group, I'm still able to keep connected with, people that we used to, just gel with all those years. I often also say to my children that I wish that they would have been able to have that type of school experience that we had when we were growing up. Times have changed. And living here in America, all the different things that they're faced with that we never even had to think about while we were in high school. In addition to that, of the three of us, I probably go back to Jamaica the most. And when I do, before I get there, I make sure to call up everybody so that we can try and meet somewhere. And we've still been able to do that, with Wayne Clark, Dunstan Wilson, Peter Champagny. I know a lot of people have migrated, and unfortunately some have passed on. So it's important for me to maintain those connections. Nadine Lazarus is still there. So this is really great. I think this will. I have enjoyed looking at or listening to the podcast that you've already created with people that I knew and went to school with, or maybe saw from afar and didn't talk to, just to hear what their take on it was. So it's been a good trip down memory lane this week, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And just a couple more questions before we head toward closing out. And I'm going to start this way. I'm going the other way, Bev. I'm asking you the question first. What message you would give to existing students or future students who are going to be listening to this conversation maybe 5-10 years down the road? You're talking to students who don't even ready for Meadowbrook yet, but I'm going to hear it. What message do you have for them?
I would say that high school is your formative years. That's the time that you're really going to learn who you are and who you want to be. And it's important that you surround yourself with like-minded people who would lift you up, motivate you, and encourage you. That's what our group was like. We were blessed that we had teachers who did the same thing. I know, the teaching industry has changed, and hopefully we still have teachers that really have a heart for teaching, because we were blessed with teachers that did that. And if you find a teacher that will take the time to pour into you, take the time to listen, because they have words of wisdom and knowledge that will help you for years to come. I'm still holding on to some of the values and truths that were shared with me from teachers like Mr. McGregor. Fiona Richmond was another really good teacher that I enjoyed having, who was such a bright light, and unfortunately she's no longer with us either. Dr. Morris, Mrs. McCullough, who was our geography teacher, all those teachers who really, really cared not only about the grade that you were receiving, but the character you were building in the process as well. Because I think those are the years that make you the person who you are. Yeah.
And Karen, your thoughts on what message you're giving to future students or teachers who will hear this conversation 10, 15 years down the road?
I think in addition to what Bev has said, and based on what both you and I, Jelly, have shared, is to not stay missing in action for that long afterwards, but to try and stay in touch because of the value that it has for those who are coming after them. So to try and make an effort to, I know in America, many schools, maybe not all, have this activity of doing reunions, like maybe 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. Not so much in Jamaica, at least not when I was there, but maybe to try and establish that here forth so that they can stay in touch more often throughout the years would be good.
And you, Karen, what would say to the future students at Meadowbrook who
I think you mean Andrea. That was Karen.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll just add to what Bev and Karen have both said, to make the most of the opportunity, get involved in the different clubs, the different sports. I'm hoping the Interschools Christian Fellowship is still there. Get involved in all that the school is offering, because you never know where your strengths might lie or the friendships that you'll form as a result of being involved in the different things. But as Bev said, it is the formative years. Make the most of it. And whatever you can see for your future now, know that you're only seeing a tiny slice of it. There is so much more than you can imagine if you just embrace the moment, fully live and experience and make the most of the opportunities available through school life, because you have no idea what the future holds for you.
And I have one last question before I ask my final question. And the question is not really a question, and I go around the table and I'm going to ask, start with you first, Paulette. Is there any question or any comment that you want to ask, as I said, the Wright sisters, that I didn't ask? Any comment you'd like make to them that I didn't bring up at all?
You know, I just want to say how fantastic it is to see your achievements and to kind of own it as a fellow Meadowbrook alumni, and we're proud of all of you as a school, and I'm certainly blessed to have known some of you personally and to be getting to know some of you in this forum.
Okay. And Patrick, is there anything you think I could have asked the Wright sisters?
Not so much. I'm not thinking of any questions, but just to echo some of what was just said. I mean, I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness, and I'm very happy to have been, at school at a time when, folks like these attended and clearly, brought, a good reputation and notoriety to the school. So, like we have been talking about now, we have a little bit of a job to do, and I'm sure we all can chip in and get this done, which is to, find a way to help the school along, to enhance its greatness and make it even more relevant to society. If we can do that, we can make a start. But it was really enlightening. This was a very interesting discussion. I'm really glad to have been a part of it. So thanks, Jelly, for inviting me. I mean, really, really, interesting discussion.
Yeah, man. Meadowbrook was the 21st century. That's my buzzword. That's where we are now. That's my buzzword.
Yeah.
And Dante, any comment? Anything you want to ask the Wright sisters, or anything you think? Any questions I didn't ask?
Right. No. Actually, I thought, as I said, I'm probably a little starstruck as well. Just, I think you may have covered everything. And it's good to know that, there is an expectation that there is going to be further contribution towards the development of a vibrant alumni going forward. From this group. I think that's important that comes out of these conversations.
Yeah.
And again, I'm happy to be amongst greatness.
Yes, indeed.
Right. As and Jelly, again, as I say, this is a great thing that you're doing.
Yes,
and,
I agree.
Right. Really happy to be a part of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, thank you.
Good.
I agree. And I'd like to just jump in and say too, yes, Jelly, I think this is definitely along the lines of what you're asking and wanting to do. This is so don't underestimate the value that what you're doing is going to have on current and future Meadowbrookites. But also, Paulette, I want to give you a shout out because it was kind of, again, nostalgic coming on this call with you on there, and I remember you from ISCF, and I thank you for taking the lead that you did then because of the impact it had on me and my sisters even then. So thank you for what you did then, and it really was nice coming on this call with somebody else. Patrick, I remember your name. I don't remember you as much, but I remember your name. And coming on and meeting or talking with people who were actually there when I was there was really nice for me. So thanks, Paulette.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well said, Karen. That's so true. Because yes, Paulette, you're an inspiration for us. You were up there in the gods of senior students running the president of ISCF and organizing all these big events and just
good times.
Looked up to. Yeah.
Beverly, is there anything that I could have asked that I didn't ask? Any questions or the comment that I didn't bring up?
No, I think you've covered the base with everything. But when you were talking about, I know you've asked and maybe will ask that question about one of the best things that happened to me with Meadowbrook. I have to say it's my husband. We formed a very good foundation in friendship, and being married to him for the past 30 years and knowing that he knows everything, was there with you from the get-go at Meadowbrook and so on. And I wish he were also on the call today, and I know Donovan would have enjoyed re-engaging with him, and you guys need to connect offline. You need to connect offline.
Yeah, man, we'll make that work. We'll get him for come on, Beverly. Let him know that he's welcome, and Dante will take care of that connection for me. Don't worry.
Because he could speak more along the sports line of the cricket and the football and all of that stuff too.
We definitely get him on. So, final questions, and I'm going to start or end it with the older one first. I'm going to start with you first, Karen.
Okay.
What made Meadowbrook magical?
I have to go back to the ISCF. I have to. I think that was what made Meadowbrook magical for me. Meetings that we did, the fellowship that we had there. That I have to say that's what it was for me.
Yeah, that is. I like that answer. I know why everybody comes on and have something that's magical for them, and remind me of what the school motto. Let your light so shine. It's like
let your light so shine. Yep.
Yeah. Whatever shines the light, Meadowbrook facilitated that.
Yeah.
Meadowbrook facilitated that, Karen, and I love that.
Yes. And even more so now, again, being in America where you don't have that much freedom now to do things like that, like you did then, even more so, because it made such an instrumental impact on my life and my life's journey. It's unfortunate that a lot of students and a lot of schools today, especially in America, don't have that freedom. So I am very thankful for that.
That is so true. That's so true. Andrea, what made Meadowbrook magical for you?
I was trying to see how I could choose one thing. I think one of the things is the way it shaped my character through the leadership positions that I was trusted with and encouraged to take up. From being, with a form prefect or head girl, and then in my last year or second to last year, co-president of ISCF, and involved in just different activities that stretched me and allowed me to discover more of who I was and was becoming, while being supported by people who kept me grounded, but also believed in me and gave me the stretch to believe for bigger things. I think that's what made it magical, the whole experience, but how it helped shape my character through all of it.
And for you, Beverly, apart from the fact that Meadowbrook didn't teach neither of us how to pronounce tree without each age.
3 jobs, man. 3 jobs.
Yes. When you come up far and I'm going to laugh up there and say, what do you eat today? You say, no, we eat that out.
You have to do 3 jobs to make it now.
What made Meadowbrook magical for you, Beverly? What made Meadowbrook magical?
For me, and I share this with my children all the time because, again, I wish they had that opportunity, is that no matter what level of status or background the students had or the children that went to the school had, they had the same opportunity. I won't name names, but I know friends who came from nothing that had the motivation and encouragement from their peers and from their teachers to be whatever they wanted to be. There was no limit set on them that they could do it, and they had the encouragement. Some of my friends, they were the first ones in their family to not only graduate high school, but to be accepted into a college. That for me is just always resounds that no matter what class status, we were all given the same opportunity and we were pushed to do the best that we could be. And I pray that they're still doing that to this day. I'm hoping that the students there have the same level of teachers and leadership around them that will encourage them to just soar. And as you say, let their light shine.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And before I close out this program, I'll just go around the table and ask a closing remark from everybody. And I start with you first. Paulette, any closing remarks? Paulette?
Yeah, I'm thinking of this has been an amazing experience today, and my closing remark would be to encourage you, Glista, to keep on keeping on with this, and encourage us to all find ways of staying connected to our roots. Meadowbrook being a huge part of it.
Yeah. Dante, any closing remarks?
Pretty much the same thing that Paulette said. Continue, Jelly, with this program. As I've said before, it's going to be the catalyst for great things for the Meadowbrook and Meadowbrookians, wherever they are. Let me see if I have a stop. This one should. I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Patrick, any closing remarks?
Yeah, great discussion, and thanks to you, for having the vision to start this process of having these podcasts with so many past students and teachers and so on, So, I mean, it's so enlightening to hear. And even though we were kind of there at the time, we're not aware of all the little details, and, some of those came out. So, for example, when I heard that Andrea did a marathon, because I have done a few and I can identify with the effort that it takes, and especially for a non-runner. I mean, that's very impressive, trust me. But it's very nice to reconnect and to hear all these stories, these wonderful stories. And just like we have all been saying, we need to kind of keep this going, and we need to strengthen the bonds and take it further to see how best we can help the school, because I realize that we all have the same kind of mindset where we're inclined to give back, and I think we should just make it a reality. Find a way to do it, and I'm in, right? So if you ever need my help, reach out.
Yeah, thank you.
But thanks to everyone. I mean, I really, I'm just beaming right now because this was so interesting.
So lovely to connect with you again, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you,
excellent.
Patrick.
Same here.
Yeah. Beverly, any closing remarks?
I will reiterate what everybody has said. This has been a wonderful journey. My sisters and I, we live in 3 different parts of the world. So we on purpose try to connect every Saturday to talk and pray with each other. But I don't think we've ever sat around and reminisced about our days of Meadowbrook. It's just kind of there and understood you went there. So it was interesting hearing their stories again, and reminding me of things that we probably forgot to talk about over the years. But yeah, I would encourage you to continue. I know I will definitely be reaching out to some of my friends to share your podcast with them, because I think they would find it an interesting journey for them as well. So thank you. Don't stop.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those words of encouragement. And Andrea, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I want to build on what Bev said, because it just struck me. She and herself and Sean have been the ones who've been most connected to Meadowbrook. And I think it's because it's the power of 2. It's not just her, it's her and Sean who have those connections and reach out. And that just shows the potential of what we can achieve by bringing together groups of people who can then start connecting with others intentionally. It's been wonderful reminiscing with my sisters. One of the, we shared that journey together. We also shared a 30-year journey together. This year we all celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary, which was a happy accident. We hadn't planned to all get married within 9 months of each other, but we did. And we just wanted to share that because we think that's pretty unique and maybe an inspiration to other Meadowbrook people listening of just what the future could hold if you keep it together, stay connected, and stay the course.
Thank you, Andrew. And Karen, any closing remark before I close out this program?
Well, again, building on what everyone else has shared, I definitely want to encourage you guys to keep doing this. This is definitely an answer to meeting the needs that might be out there. And if we can capitalize, and I admit I am not as versed in all the internet ways of communicating, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of that as I should be. But because of those opportunities, maybe we can capitalize on that to try to get the word out there and try to get more Meadowbrook people connected. And you definitely seem to be informed with where they are, what they're doing. So if we could find a way to let others know through these platforms what you're doing, what Meadowbrook needs, even if we could find out where other people are. Like, I'd love to know, where Mr. Lawson is now. Things like that, I think, would be a way of building people's desires to give more and to give back. And I think that what you're doing is going to be one way of doing it, using the internet. There'll be other ways of doing it. And then as we continue, like Andrea said, in groups to tell more people about it, we can get more people involved, each one telling one and so on.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you. So, Paulette Samuels, Donovan Thomas, Dante, or Ted Greg, as I know him. Patrick Dewey, my best friends, the younger brother. Beverly, Andrea, and Karen Wright. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I appreciate you all taking the time out to come and join this conversation. And God bless all of us, and God bless that great school at 2 Meadowbrook Avenue, where groomed us and facilitated us that we can have this conversation 40 years later.
Yes.
Like we still have a Meadowbrook. And God bless all of us, and God bless Meadowbrook High School, and thank you all for coming in, and have a good night.
Amen.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. All the best to you.
Okay, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Meadowbrook Memories, and remember to give us all the support and encouragement you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. And special thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince, who takes care of everything involved in getting the podcast out every week, and without him, this podcast would not be possible. It is his expertise that allows me to do what I love doing every week, having great conversations about Meadowbrook memories, and he's responsible for everything else. So again, thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince.